Hi, this video is going to cover some of the more advanced functionality that lives within the survey portion of our iOS Survey HD application. So what I have here, I've gone ahead, if you've watched the previous video that we've done on the basic survey functionality, you've had a chance to go in and mess around with it a little bit, you've probably gone ahead and built an inventory list as I've done here. One of the first things that I want to look at are moving items from one room to another. A common thing that happens when people start using the program is when you go from room to room, you forget to change the room that you're in. So in order to move an item from one room to another, all you have to do over here on the right or left-hand side, next to living room, it has a little I. If I hit that I there, what it does is it says move items to, and then it's telling me to select a room that I want to move those items to. So I'm going to go ahead and select dining room here. And then what it does is it pulls up a complete list of everything that you see or had surveyed for the living room. Now all I have to do is check the items that I want to move over to the dining room. So I'm going to move the mirror cartons, and then I think I have some plastic containers or something like that in here. I'm going to move those, and then I'm going to move a occasional table over. By doing that, putting those check marks next to those items and then hitting the save button in the upper right, it's going to do two things. One, it's going to create the new room. So now I have my dining room. And then the second thing that it's going to do is take those items from the living room and move them into that dining room. So that's how you're going to move stuff around from room to room if you forget by chance to change rooms. So one of the other functions that I want to note here are the notes section that you can use within the application under specific items. If you watched that previous video, I went and showed you guys how to go in and make notes. So under table drop / occasional, if I touch the screen there, I can go to comments and you can make any type of note that you want here. But one of the more advanced functions that you have, there is a preordained notes list that's in here that prevents you from having to type the same notes over and over again. Now, if I touch the screen where it says Note for Table Occasional, what it pulls up here are all sorts of items, okay? These typically represent like contents for cartons, but it can represent anything that you want. And a lot of folks don't even note the contents, at least when you're doing a sales survey. You're not really typically noting the carton contents. So what this gives you the ability to do, if I swipe from right to left on any of these items, I can hit delete there and remove the items that I don't want. And then at the very top where it says add new, I can add new items in. So I can put in something like breakable or fragile, or I could put in antique or stretch wrap. Those are all common notes. So I can put those in there, add it as a new common note. Once you've added it, if I go under S for stretch wrap, you can see that it's in there actually twice. I may have had it added before, but the principle's the same. So just touch the item from that note section to add that note in. So instead of, 12 touches to type out stretch wrap, you're only touching the screen once, twice to add the item that you want or the description that you want. So think of the notes that you make over and over again on specific items. You can actually create your own table in there reflective of those notes that you're constantly making. So that's another function I wanted to show everyone. One of the other cool things that we do in here are relative to crates. Okay, so let's say we're in the dining room here, and while we're in the dining room, we have a picture. And what you're going to see from your list here on the right-hand side are different crates. And crates are always noted like this. Let me go to G for glass top. You see how it's glass top 1 through 9. And then if I go to M for marble, I have marble 1 to 9, mirror 1 to 9. If I hit P for picture, I have picture 1 to 9. Okay, so to add, these are all crates. So anytime you see something, and you can see on the right next to the item, it has 0 cube associated with it. That's because each crate's going to be a little bit different, and you get to assign the cube that you want based on the dimensions. So what the program does, and I'm going to add picture 1, it adds that item to my surveyed items list. Okay, so I've added a picture that's going to need to go into a crate. Now at this point, I'm going to take out my tape measure, and I'm going to measure the picture that needs to be created. And after I have those dimensions, I'm going to touch the screen here. And if you look at the picture down here toward the bottom, it has length, width, and height. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in actual dimensions, okay? Because the program's automatically going to add 4 to each of these. So if it's a 56 by 34, and then with the thick frame on it, maybe it's 2 inches deep, you know, I put in actuals here, and then what it's doing, if you look at the cube, my cube changed to 8 there. It's adding the cube in. It's adding 4 inches to each of those dimensions. So it's actually, 60 by 38 by, 6. It's multiplying it, dividing by 1728 to come up with that 8 cubic foot. And it's also rounding up to the nearest whole cubic foot for you, making sure that you have enough room. So at this point, it's 8 cubic foot. The only thing you'll have to account for, and this really comes into play with things like marble and glass, is the weight associated with that item. Okay, so you can do a simple weight override right here without affecting your cube at all. Now, if you guys end up, and let me put in here 150 pounds, we'll just pretend that it's 150. Now, if you offer crating, and your crating is done per your company's tariff on the interstate side of the application, you can enter in your packing here for how many you're going to pack, and it will calculate your crating out for you per your tariff. Now, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of folks use a third party for crating, and they're charging some sort of third party rate like $10 or $15 per cubic foot. So if that's the case, go ahead and leave your packing and unpacking set at 0 here. And what the program's going to do for you, when I go back to my detail screen, you're going to have under your pack summary in the lower right, if I go to crating, it's going to list out all of your crates in here with the cubic foot. So what you're going to do is take that 8 cube that you see here, you're going to multiply it by whatever your third party rate is, and then under your miscellaneous items field right here, you're going to go ahead and add in a miscellaneous item. So I can put in crate for picture or whatever it is. And then I can put in the flat dollar amount for that based on that simple math. So let's say it's a $300 crate. Easy as that. It's going to add that miscellaneous item in, and then that is going to be added as a non-discounted third-party cost into the cost of your move for you. So that's how crates are handled within the application, along with those notes and then changing rooms. One of the other things that you're going to probably experience if you've gone through the other videos and you've started to use the application for surveying, you're probably going to have the need to clean your list up a little bit. I find it very common for new users to come in here and start adding items they're not finding right away, and then realizing that those items were just in a different part of the inventory itself. So if I go to my view summary here at the top, okay, I have a maintenance button in the lower right. What that's going to do is allow you to hide items or hide rooms. If I hit hide items, what it does is it pulls up my global inventory list. Think of this as like your master list. Any item from here that I want to select, and let me hit T for test because I added that test item at 30 cube in that previous video. If I touch that item, it will ask me if I want to remove it from my surveyed items list, or remove it from the visible items list, I'm sorry. So if I hit yes there, it removes it, and then that item is no longer in here from that moment going forward. So you can see here, test is no longer in there. Okay, so that's how you're going to hide an item from your list. It doesn't impact anything that you've done previously. Only from that moment going forward will it have an impact on your list. Now, the same principle is true for hiding rooms. So if I go to hide rooms, and one of the common things that we see, people start naming the rooms after the children. So like Billy's room or Becky's room or whatever it is. And then you use it for that one customer, and then it may be 10 customers later that you move another Billy or something like that. So if you want to clean your list up, you can just go to hide rooms, and from here, same principle is true. And you can see in here I've added like man cave is a specific room for that basement bar area. Well, I can touch the screen there if I want to get rid of it and hit yes. And then that is no longer a room to select from my visible rooms list. So you can see man cave is no longer in there. Okay, so those are some more advanced functions within the application. One of the other cool things that you can do, and I always caution folks about using this, just for the simple fact that, you know, it can kind of get confusing if you're not, you know, keeping it straight in your head. In here, you have something called a smart item. Okay, And you'll find that under View Summary, under Maintenance, and I have Manage Smart Items right here. So with that being said, let me preface this by saying that a smart item is an item that you associate maybe like a third-party charge to, okay? So a good example of this, and let me go in the dining room here, and let me do G for grandfather clock. Do you see how I have grandfather clock in here? And then right below that, I have one that I've added in, which is grandfather clock SVC. I put the SVC behind it to designate it as one that has a service associated with it. So whenever I see a customer and they have a grandfather clock, typically the first thing I'm asking them, okay, is that something that you're going to service, or do you want us to service that clock for you? And depending on their answers, depending on which one I select, they say, well, I'm going to handle it. Fine, then I'll just select grandfather clock, which was a standard item in our list. Now, if they say, well, we want you to handle it, at that point, I'm going to select grandfather clock SVC. And I've set this grandfather clock SVC up as a smart item. So if I go into my maintenance button here, and I go into manage smart items, you can see here that I have grandfather clock SVC. You can make any item from your list a smart item by hitting the plus sign in the upper right, selecting the item from the list, and then after you select it, you can go ahead and, let me jump back in there. You can go ahead and add either a third-party item to it, whether it's at origin, destination, or both. You can add a miscellaneous charge for it, and in my case, I have grandfather clock set up as a $240 charge. So what it's going to do here, every time I survey a grandfather clock, so let me go back in here, I'll survey a grandfather clock SVC, it is saving me the time from having to go into my miscellaneous items here and type that out. All I have to do in here is go in and make sure that it's noted as a flat charge, and that's it. Now it's adding that $240 charge into the system as a miscellaneous third party. So I tell people to use that with caution, because you always have that gung-ho customer that's looking for a way out or looking for a way to do things themselves. And you always have to have that option for them in your list. So if you're going to add things like third-party charges to things like washers and dryers and washer packs and I mean all the different stuff that you guys charge for, you have to make sure that you give the customer an option as well to do it. Hence why I put grandfather clock and grandfather clock SVC into my list. So that covers some of the other basic functionality. One last thing I want to point out here, there is a notes section in the upper left-hand side. These are survey notes, okay? And you can add new common notes to this list. These are just general survey notes. So, if you're in the home and there's, I don't know, maybe the customer's kind of like a little bit of a clutter person, or they have a lot of stuff, a hoarder maybe, you can make those types of notes in here. The notes that you make under the survey notes section are private notes. They do not appear on the reports for the customer to see. They're basically internal notes for you guys to have for your own purposes and own reference. So in here I can add new common notes, or I can just type in notes by hitting the plus sign and making those notes in here regarding the survey itself. Okay, so maybe it's a scenario that you want to note that, hey, you're moving furniture only. Customers moving all the boxes and totes, that sort of thing, which is very common on a local move. Those are great types of notes to have in here. So that covers some of the more advanced survey functionality within the application.